I'm recording a lesson 12, and this is again, it's primarily about SketchUp, but I'm going to export to AutoCAD format a Revit model, or the beginnings of a Revit model. But I'm going to remove the site topography, which, if you remember, I created a simple 4.00 elevation topography, and the site in actuality slopes downward along School Street, and I want to SketchUp is much better at modeling, importing location information. So I'm going to provisionally delete the site topography in SketchUp in in Revit, and export this model again to AutoCAD which is a native 3D format. Let's give it. You have to pick the oldest version that you can of CAD. Less Topo V 2007. I like to put those suffixes in there so that we know exactly what version of AutoCAD that file is, in case it gives us problems. So now when I go to SketchUp, notice the file is tiny. Boy, is it? $514K. Now when I go to SketchUp, I'm gonna just create a new model, not save that lesson. Top view. Whenever I'm performing operations like this, I'd like to go to an orthographic view and change camera to parallel projection, so you don't have perspective distortion in what you're doing. Any operation that involves some level of accurate translation, you're performing some kind of translation from one platform to another, one model format to another. So file, import, and you change this to AutoCAD. It is AutoCAD from before. And let's import this model, less topography, and just default options. You don't need to worry about that. So now we have the model without the site information. So there's no surface outside of this. This is simply the model itself. There's several things to notice about this before I get into because I want to make this about SketchUp. There are some elements that are very simply translated as components. For example, this window, which, if you remember, if you watched lesson, I can't remember what number it was, but we estimated, we created a group, and then we replicated that group for over the entirety of where those openings occurred. So we have, because this came over as a component, when I select that double clicking it activates the component. When I select the face, I can apply material to it, and it will apply to all the elements, it'll propagate that change to all the components, right? So when I close this component, provided that was a single face, in fact it wasn't, so I'm going to have to triple click. Let's see. If we delete one of the faces, okay, it is, so double click. We have 5 entities, and let's paint it with glass. Close that component. Now we should be able to see through. There's nothing to see because everything's a hidden line. So let's go and do the same for these other components. These are, remember, these are modeled as a curtain wall. So I triple click that, and I'm going to paint that clear. Paint that clear. Close that component. Okay, let's see if we can see it through. Alright, let's try a different one. Not sure why I can't see inside there. So if I remove it all together, there's a face behind there as well. Let's paint it. So my curtain wall element actually had 2 panes of glass. Close component. So now, there. Now I can see inside through this curtain wall face, because I removed the second, or the second layer of glazing. Let's do the same here. Triple click. Paint it clear. We used to joke in the 70s, drummer had drum heads that were clear, and he joked that he painted them clear. Remove that first face, triple click that, close that component. Let's see if we can see through to these windows, I don't think we can. Aha, there's why. It's again leveraging the power of components. If we modify all the components, now we can see through the window. So that's a pretty massive That's pretty massive functionality. I'm going to do the same here. Delete the first, paint the rest clear, and now we can see inside the model. And we might as well, should I finish this? I guess I'm going to finish this and save this file as lesson 12. You don't need to watch me do all this. Well, we might as well. It won't take long. So remember, this was modeled as a single straight run. That was a curtain wall that extended from here to that point as a straight line. So that's convenient. And that ought to do it. Everything else in the model should be opaque. Close that component. Let's save this as lesson 12 file. Save as. Lesson 12. Let's go to a top view. And we need to, because I talked about site, we need to locate, Geo Locate the Model. So I'm going to simply type in the address, 24 School Street, Boston. Now remember that the building is not oriented to true north. It's oriented you remember from the Here Comes the Sun lesson that School Street is 4 degrees east of the horizontal line, the perpendicular to true north, which means it's at an angle. So when we're going to select a region to grab, I don't need much for context, and click grab, and that places, well, where did SketchUp go? That places the site data on the model, and it brings in its own layers called location terrain and location snapshot. So when I go, this is actually, the terrain is turned off by default, but it's actually 3D data that represents the surface topography. Of course, it's not oriented right now to the building. It has to be rotated so that it's aligned with the building, and we'll do that in a separate lesson. And then we'll set the elevation so you can see how that's working.